Acceptance is a very big part of recovery, and denial is a very big part of addiction. And grief as a normal, healthy process that ought to be routine. Now, when I think of grief, I think of big episodes of pain and sadness, and then there's this period afterwards of grief, and I process through it and I get it over with and I'm done, and I kind of skate along in my happy little life until the next crisis comes, and then I have another period of grief, and then I get back to normal. But grief is the way we get to a place of acceptance in the face of loss. Loss leads to grief, which, if handled appropriately, leads to acceptance. Loss, which leads to grief, if not handled appropriately, leads to denial. So what leads to loss? What precipitates loss, and how would that be part of a healthy life? Like, how would loss be a part of a healthy life? Change is how loss shows up in a healthy life, because as I change, what I used to be or what I used to have or how I used to live is left behind, and that causes loss. Any recovery that lasts for a while is going to lead to loss. When we first show up to recovery, there are some things we very much want to lose. There are some things we very much want to get away from, and we celebrate those losses. Maybe it's the habit, or maybe it's the relationship, or maybe it's the behavior. There's a reason why we were desperate enough to show up the first time, and we're happy to see that go. But as we continue the process of recovery, there are more things that drop off. There are more things we walk away from. There are more moments of loss. If I choose to embrace that process, embrace change, healthy change, if I choose to embrace that, then I'm choosing to embrace a consistent level, a consistent attitude of loss. And then that gives me an opportunity to practice acceptance in the face of the grief that comes as a result of that loss, or an equal opportunity to step into denial in the face of that loss. And if I step into denial, then that's going to stall up my recovery, and I'll go right back into the things that I just had the blessed fortune of losing, such as fear or shame or anger or isolation or any other number of character defects. I'm still not sure exactly how comfortable I am with the idea of living with a constant attitude of healthy loss and healthy grief, so I go back to that word acceptance. I think that's the word that helps me make sense of all that. What does this mean for a Christian? How does this work for a Christian? In recovery, we talk a lot about acceptance, and we talk a little bit about surrender, but I think the word surrender fits very, very well. When we talk about acceptance in recovery, we're not saying it is what it is, and I am what I am, and whatever mess I am, that's just the mess I'm going to be in. Whatever bad things I do, that's just the way I'm going to be. That's not what we're talking about when we talk about acceptance. And so I think the word surrender actually fits very well, because when we talk about acceptance, what we're talking about is surrendering to the process of healing, allowing our higher power, Jesus Christ, to have control of the process, taking my hands off. I'm sitting in the driver's side of my vehicle here. There are other seats in this vehicle. There's a passenger seat right there. In my recovery, acceptance is me staying in the passenger seat and not jumping over into the driver's seat. Now, there may be times where my higher power is taking me places where I'm not really wanting to go. And I may say so. I may say so a lot. I may say so loudly. But as long as I stay in that seat, there is some level of acceptance. I may be grieving, it may get ugly, I may be arguing and hollering, but as long as I can stay in that seat, stay in the vehicle, he'll get me where he wants me to go. He'll get me to a place of healing. That's acceptance. That's surrender. Just like the most authentic grieving is pretty ugly, the most authentic surrender is sometimes messy. Sometimes it doesn't look like we would expect. Sometimes it involves tries and false starts, and sometimes it looks like off and on again relationships, maybe not being as routine with our contact with our sponsor or pastor or church attendance or Bible reading. Sometimes it's just very messy. But underneath it all, the foundation is staying in the passenger seat, allowing Jesus to drive. It all comes back to Jesus. And to the degree that I believe that he will get me where I have to go, and to the degree that I will allow him to be the one that gets me there, not my own abilities, not my own intelligence, not my works, not even my faith, to the degree that I allow Jesus Christ to be the only thing that I trust in to get me where I need to go, that's acceptance. That's surrender. And that will actually work. That will actually result in recovery and healing.